I'm sure it'll be fine this time. Is everyone with us? Might be worth someone poking in the chat, telling recommending a refresh. And just in case anyone's not getting the stream back up and working again. Right, so we pick this. We pick ethanol. Yeah, Ed tested it and he says it's working fine for him. So I've rebooted the machine. And this feels better. This feels better. We've got the second loading screen. We're all good. If you've got two loading screens, you're doing well. Right, okay, all the usual then. More options. Operator controls. Lead brake. Cut in. Release those. Apply those. Get the air brakes charging up. Power on. Lights on. Headlights on. Reverser in. Reverser, no. Push to talk. Banking com on. Reverser into forwards. Right. Now begins the waiting game as we wait for the rear brake pressure to come up. This time we're in Cheyenne. And we have got 12,000 tons behind us this time. The screen. We're waiting for this. It's the screen down here that we're waiting for. Also, we are just getting started. What I will do is back there, brighten this up so it's a bit more visible. So as I said before on the previous stream, what you're waiting for is for the rear brake pressure to come up. We've got a fairly long haul up the hill, so I can pretty much get going as soon as the brakes release. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says 16,000 gallons of fuel, or unless that's giving you the sum total of all four locos or something that are coupled together. Extra level of difficulty tonight, by the way. I'm drinking coffee while I'm driving, so the challenge will be, can I keep the coffee in the mug? It is indeed highlighter, yes. Is that a good idea? Probably not, to be honest. 22 psi on the rear. It's getting there. 73 on the front. I did descale the machine. It works a treat now. While you wait, can you run to the other end and back? Probably. I'm too lazy for that, though. The G6 is Train Sim Germany, TSG. You see, the coffee's actually, the PC's on a different desk. So even if I spill coffee over it, it's actually my laptop that would once again take the brunt of it. But no, laptop is turned off, so try not to do that, yeah. What we got on the rear, we should have 100 ethanol cars. There we go. Ethanol into the distance. Just under 40 now. There should be a live stream of the G6 at some point. I'm not sure what the schedule is for it, MSA. Hey, chain check, Trav. What's the max speed of this route? It's like 55, but you generally don't want to be doing 55 with the long trains because you've got a real problem if you do that. Oh yeah, there'll be rear locos as well. What we got? One by the looks of it. Yep, just the one on the back. Everything at the front is SD70, yeah. All SD70s today, or this evening. How are we doing? 52 PSI. With so many people expecting overnight delivery, why don't they opt for shorter but faster trains? I'm not sure the cost benefit works, in fact. I think you'll find that doubling the length of the train and 2/3 of the speed works actually better. And not only that, the question of how many crews you'd have, how many locos you'd need to run that, the maintenance cost of those locos. I mean, with PSR, they're trying to make longer trains with less locomotives, aren't they? So if you just joined, we did a stream earlier on where we went from Laramie to Cheyenne with a grain train. We're going to this time go Cheyenne to Laramie with an ethanol train. Albeit this one's a little bit lighter, but not a lot. Oh, hold on a second, folks. That was just my wife confirming. She got the PCR results back confirming that it is indeed COVID. So, not that we were in any doubt, to be honest. .63 PSI on the back. We got time. The flow rate isn't simulated. Well, clearly there is simulation of flow, but for some reason it doesn't work to count that value. I don't remember what the explanation was, but apparently the way we've been doing it before is wrong, so they've left it unimplemented rather than do it wrong. We'll get there eventually. What are you waiting for to get moving? I'm waiting for this rear PSI number. It's at 63 right now. And I'm waiting for that to get up to probably 70. We should be rolling at 70. Banking com is on, yeah. We know we have actually joked about what we could do with the right display a number of times. Back when we did the original CSX Heavy Haul, I did semi-seriously want the team to license the old Sinclair Spectrum game, Southern Belle, and write a Spectrum emulator into Unreal, and then make it to where while you're on your long journeys you can play Southern Belle on the right screen. But people felt there was better things they could spend their time on for some reason. Banking com is communicating to the bankers. Bankers being the more of an English name, I think, for the western, for the back end of the train. So there's a locomotive on the back, and banking com, which is enabled by pressing that, will make it to where the rear loco mimics the commands or the instructions of the levers on the front loco. So as I throttle up one, it will throttle up on the back as well. $64. Why am I streaming alone? Because everybody else is being sensible and having a weekend off. But I wanted to play the game, and I thought, well, if I'm going to play it, I might as well stream it and help answer some questions if there are any. Even with that backup train number at like 60, it's still so hard to get the train moving. It does depend, I've noticed, on the train sometimes. But this morning, in the earlier stream today, I rolled no problem at 75. Make sure your banking com is on so you've got rear support. And someone else at the doing the same thing said they were rolling at 70. How come you can't substitute any trains on the street, excluding AC 4400? So the AC 4400 for the Union Pacific AC 4400 from Cane Creek, we need to test it to make sure that it works with the braking tweaks that have been done for Sherman Hill. You know, I did think about doing a scenario using the Southern N15 on TS1 on London Brighton and placing the camera in a sort of a similar location, and kind of calling it a Southern Belle reprise. $67. Let's have a look in the rear loco. So according to this, the brakes are actually already off on the rear. I'm not going to roll yet because it's way too early. Still got 13 psi to charge up to get full use of the brakes. But according to this, the rear of the train is actually free floating now, which is good. Means we should be in good shape to roll once we got a bit further up. And as before, apologies for the frame rate, folks. It's because my machine's old. $68. Well, I've got the foliage turned down to medium, but the thing is I've got a 2080 graphics card, which is kind of like a monster compared to my 6th gen processor. It's a bit out of balance, but The opportunity came up to upgrade for a low price, so I took it. Thinking at some point I'm sure I'll upgrade the CPU, but now it's not a priority. Why can't the rear end help charge the brakes up too? It's supposed to, Steve, and it doesn't look like it is. So I need to find out. It's presumably because we're not using it. It's not a DPU setup. It's just running as a slave local. It's something we need to get into, doing a full DPU simulation at some point. Oh, the coffee machine's nearby, Monty Burns. Oh, yes. Just going to put it up to 70, and then I think we'll release the brakes and roll, and we'll take a steady stroll. This train is not going to rush up the hill, not at the 1.5%. No, it's a Dolce Gusto now, Francois. I changed the Tassimo. Actually, my wife took Tassimo to her job, a volunteer job, and they use it in the shop there. And I bought myself a Dolce Gusto because I much prefer the lattes out of a Dolce Gusto. I don't like sweet drinks, and Tassimo is just a bit on the sweet side for me. Right, we're at 70 psi, so let's loco brake off. Couple of notches on the throttle. We're rolling. See if it keeps rolling. Get to about 1.5. You know you're not going to suffer from the coupler slack because the rear is. Yeah, we're going. We're rolling. I think what's happened is, so I think, and a number of people have said, it's the eye adaptation has brightened up the interior, which has meant the exterior blows out a bit much. But other people have said there's other different things. You know what? I have no idea, but reasons. You'll notice because we're an SD70, we have the EOT move indicator, which confirms for me that the back of the train is moving, which is good. What platform are you on, BNSF 4723? Are you on console or PC? Yeah, I thought it was eye adaptation as well, yeah, and I've never liked it, but it's because it's never been really set up properly. Problem with eye adaptation is it prevents the game from ever being dark. Yeah, but I didn't think it highlighted it on PC, BNSF, because the highlight is used on the console to show you which brake you're going to be interacting with. Starting to climb now. Why do you sit so high? The seat needs turning down. It's already been turned down in our internal builds, but that hasn't made it to the release yet, and I'm running the release build, same as you. The first stream was PS5 BNSF. So I would have run it on my Xbox Series X tonight, but I don't have it installed on there. I need to get a copy and install it. The white car, yeah, that's a barrier wagon. It's usually filled with sand. Separates the loco from the ethanol cars. Right, 0.8%. We're doing okay on our speed, but we're in run 8 now. We're going to be running at run 8 now for a while. It's not so much console only, sorry, BNSF. It's if you're using a controller, it shows up. If you're not using a controller, it doesn't. Yeah, there's coal cars. There's 7 different freight cars on the route. Danabasi. What do I have for dinner? Chicken nuggets and chips. Rolling out the deluxe dinners here. Is my pink controller nearby? I mean that one. It's not. It's Bluetooth, and I haven't actually got Bluetooth receiver on this PC, so it won't work on it. What does it do when you press sand? The sanding light comes on, really. It's not a whole lot to do at this point, except sit and watch the train for the next hour and a bit. Liam. Possibly. I'll go and have another look at my DMs. Yeah, the alert is not turned on, bad guy. Short in the shop calls me straight away. Does train use AWS? No, AWS is a British system. Are there any services we have to stop down here for a red signal? I wouldn't know, Happy Day. I don't think so, but I've not run every service, so I don't know. I think is track 3 heading off now, isn't it? Yep, that's track 3 heading off down that way. Which services to from Laramie use the other track? I don't know. Off the top of my head, it's probably about half a dozen in each direction. Got 32 miles to just past the summit. Rising up the 1.5, which is where we'll slow right down. Finds its balance point around 20 miles an hour on the 1.5. So you've got the cab signalling here. What I haven't been able to get a completely straight answer on is whether the cab signalling takes any kind of positive impact on the train, or whether it's purely a visual indicator. We were told specifically the ST40 does not have any kind of input on the train, or exactly what it does, what the limits are and so forth. So we're actually going to make it not have any impact on the train on the ST70 as well, because what happens at the moment is you get not enough time to slow the train down, then the emergencies kick in and you're looking at another 10 minutes to get it going again, which is terrible, frankly. Yeah, we're going to make it to where it's passive, but you get all the light indicators on there, because they should be working, but they're not. Modern American freight trains, the newer ones, have got positive train control, PTC, which is done with inputs on the screens, and that would be more actual control of the train, i.e. it would actually be tracking how fast you're going and be more of a curve to slow you down. What's the max speed? Again, the max speed of the route is 55-65 miles an hour. The max speed you'll be going on it probably won't be that. The peak speed for dynamic brakes to work downhill is about 30-31 miles an hour. They become less effective above that speed. And going uphill will depend on how much freight you're hauling. We will slow down until it finds a balance point, Gabor, which, as I said, is about the 20 miles per hour mark. UP uses cab signals. This is their cab signalling system. There's two systems on an ST70. CCS is what you use in UP territory, and ATC is closer to the Metro North, I think, or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't quite follow what the engineer at work was saying about that. But this route will be using the signals on the right-hand side. But a slow ascent means that we've got time for the brake pipe to do its thing. It's up to 80 psi now. Any passenger service on the route was a freight exclusive? I think in reality there's very, very little passenger on this route. It's like specials, really. There's no scheduled passenger over it, I don't think. The Bell Bear is fixed on Steam PC, and we're rolling that out to other platforms over this coming week, I think. Does throttling an idle make your brakes charge faster? I believe in reality it's supposed to. Some people have said they thought it did in the game. Well, I don't know is the answer to that question. Whether or not that's right or not. So I need to check with the physics guy tomorrow and find out actually what was done on that front, whether that's in there. We're past Wycon. Yeah, I'm aware it does in real life, yeah. Yeah, emergency brakes shouldn't derail the train, Dr. Barr. That's weird. Grain train heading down the hill. No, there's no PTC in this local. I'm not sure what you mean by leader, but there's no PTC. Dynabacks, I need to find out from the team actually, because I've seen several people talking about the landscape painting, and one of the things with the we wanted the auto generator to do was to pick up a lot more of the landscape painting. But I need to find out whether or not this is the result of the auto gen tool, or whether or not actually it's the team have just spent more time on the landscape this time around. I don't want to not give them credit where they've where they've just big win like that, because I agree the landscape is fantastic with painted. A horn. Right, we're driving up the 1.5% now. When the signal is green and PZB is 500 Hz, it still ends up activating the emergency brakes. Doesn't matter what the signal is at. If your PZB is at 500 Hz, then you need to obey 500 Hz rules, which means a maximum 20 kilometers an hour. Well, technically 25, but you shouldn't go up. You're better off not going above the 20. Yeah, it's kind of you always obey PZB on the train, not what the real world is saying. Or obey the worst of the two in all cases. If PZB is saying 500 Hz, then you're at a limited speed. But it'll only be 250 yards max before the 500 Hz clears. And then in theory, given that that was a green and had no 1000 Hz on it, you should clear up pretty much to max line speed pretty much shortly after that, depending on what else you've got going on. Leonardo Di Loretto, what GWB bug fix and 166 bug fix, the route is unplayable now. Really? What? I don't know. You send me a DM on the forums with what bugs you're seeing that make it unplayable. No one, I'm not seeing anybody else telling me it's unplayable. No, he said GWE, sorry, bad guy. Oh, speed is peeling off badly now. Why are you going so slow? It's on full power. It's a big heavy train. Notch 9, yeah, really. We've got 13,000 tons on this train. In all honesty, could probably use another loco on the back. Because gravity is a real drag. Oh dear. I haven't done the maths, Dallas, to figure it out, to be honest. I am curious to find out. What kind of horsepower you need to get 12,000 tons, 13,000 tons up 1.5% gradient. The dynamic brakes when you come off from setup into normal is, yeah, it's a bug. It's because it's switching from dynamic brake to normal engine, but the sounds are not switching at the same time or something, so it all goes just wrong. There is still work going on the rush hour routes, Simply Sims. I don't have any updates for you on when things will go on, but it's not being ignored. It's different people. Yeah, rear car isn't released yet fully. It's still at 84. It takes ages to pump the last bit up. It's released. I'm not dragging brakes. It's just not pumped up fully recharged. Well, braking accelerates. Braking, see, if cost and practicality weren't an issue, then you might find that going with electro-pneumatic brakes would be better, because then you apply and release instantly in all the wagons. Then the cost and maintenance of wagons goes up dramatically. The millions of wagons they have, that's not practical, really. It's got broken brake sounds now on the Capcom. I wasn't aware of that. I know the speed limit got broken, we fixed that. Robert Niederschnick, Clinchfield question. Sorry, what was the Clinchfield question? They loop now even when the brake pressure stops. Oh, jeez. That's annoying. Seems like we've balanced out around 18 miles an hour. That's the Borry cutoff coming in on the left. Some nitrous boosters, yeah, really. Slug up the hill. Oh, this is that brief stint where it drops back to 1.2 briefly. Would it be easy to add another SD70 to the consist if it's needed? Yeah, relatively. Just add it to the back of the train and then resimulate the timetable, a couple of hours work. Simulated breakdowns, potentially. It depends what they are. You can't put forward the impression that a train is unreliable or that safety would ever be impacted. But for example, one of the things I'd like to do is breaking couplers and things like that at some point. The other thing I want to do at some point, and we need to figure out the hows and wherefores of it, is to have some of the trains have slightly different performance values, because you can do that. With the way Simigraph works, you can have an element of the Simigraph work less well. No, the bell isn't animated currently. I believe that's being fixed. The broken down HST scenario in GW isn't really a broken down HST though, is it? Don't know, pass it. It's just a HST. Same as in TS1 where you want to make you want to do a broken down train rescue. You just put the train on there and don't give it any instructions and say, yeah, it's broken down. That's all a broken down train is in the game usually. In TS1 you have TS World we have the ability to set its presets so we can make it cold and dark. And we can now set the preset for the Simigraph presets for individual locomotives, which means that where previously when you did a power move, all of the locos would either be powered up or all of them would be not powered up. We can now make it to where the driven loco is powered up and the rest are powered off. I didn't turn my bell up because I forgot. Settling its way back down to 18 again now. We're back on the 1.5%. 25 miles to go. Yeah, so many bell haters. Can't blame them though, given how many people have had to forced to live with the bell going on all the time. So no, I can't find fault in that, to be honest. Thelonious, it's been actually technically possible to do 100 freight cars now for a while, but the Gen 9 consoles have made it to where the broader audience can now benefit from it. So we've always said that the next big freight route we do, we will definitely make sure that Gen 9 and PC get the bigger consists. But there was a massive optimization of Simigraph a while back now. That made it to where we were like, oh, this probably could do it now sensibly on PCs, and at some point in the future when next gen consoles arrive, which obviously they now have. But it was a while ago now that we did this big optimization of Simigraph had happened. It completely optimized how all the threading worked on Simigraph. Whereas Simigraph used to be inherently single-threaded because of how it worked, it's now fundamentally multi-threaded. There's no plans to revisit other routes, but I must admit I quite fancy going through Sandpatch Grade and bumping up the consists on that, because that shouldn't take too long. I might do that in my own time at some point. Could that also be done in the future if you decide to do 150-200 car freight trains? See, I'd say that was less likely to happen because I'm not sure there's much optimization to wring out of Semigraph at this point, Derek. So the only way you're getting 150-200 car freight trains is to raise the minimum specs. And that becomes diminishing returns. You get a vastly reduced number of people who can play that content. And probably even less who actually would be able to cope with the train that long, given the challenges some people are having with 100-car trains. Miles, or 17 miles an hour now. The next notable landmark will be Granite Quarry. I'm fine, I'm messing. We're uphill, so it's when it transitions to downhill that we have to start paying attention. Are there simulated loaded and unloaded consists? I believe so, yes. We are on the side of loaded, to be honest, because they're the heavy trains that are more interesting, but we try and include some unloaded trains. Particularly if there's directions where you want coal going in one direction and not in the other, obviously, then we try to factor that in. How far is Laramie? Well, it's 24 miles to Hermosa and probably about another 15 after that. Console's got to factor into it, definitely, Calador. You need, if you're going to spend time making a product, you want to make a product that the most people that can enjoy. Making an amazing product that only 10 people can enjoy is not really a good idea. There are already people frustrated they can't drive the 100-car trains. Imagine how, if a lot more people couldn't drive 200-car trains. See you later, Goosewoff. No more news on Horseshoe Curve. Still a way to go to get to Granite. Actually, Monty, I'm going to go with that. That sounds like a $12 idea. This is the last one in this box. Fortunately, I bought another 2 boxes. They were £2.90 a box, so I'll have some of that. I'm not sure what happened with the quarry, Donabassi, if I'm honest. Can you use throttle quadrants for the controls? If you use a key mapper, Hat Trick Co, but there's no implicit support in the game for throttle quadrants. But I know some people use key mappers with some success. Latte or a macchiato? I like a macchiato as well. Strolling up the hill. I've almost got the back of the train up to full pressure, which is good. Oh, I can't stand mocha. Cannot stand it. I bought mochas when I got my Dolce Gusto machine in like this Black Friday thing last year, and they're doing the same deal this year where you buy 8 boxes of coffee and you get a free machine. And I bought a mocha as one of them just as a to try it out. Had one. I'm like, boo, no, what is this? Ooh. Fortunately, my wife likes them, and my daughter likes them, so they're having them. J4V, maybe try Twitch, or try turning down the detail settings on YouTube. Try and watch it at a lower bit rate or something. Twilight Marmite? No. No, no, no. What does this train have that no other trains have? Sure, many horsepowers, although most electric trains probably got more horsepower than this. Plenty of wind down here, Cameron, plenty of cold temperature, but not snow, and not even that much rain, to be honest, if any. Are there many mainline runs in the ST40? I don't think there are, you know. What's Marmite? You know when you change the oil in your car, yeah, and the first thing you do is open the sump, and it dumps that, you know, the old oil out of your car. What they do is they put that into a jar, stick a big sticker on it that says Marmite, and put it in the shops, or something like that. Anyway. Bovril. Well, they're both pretty nasty. You think that's giving it credit? Turbines time. Turbines on Sherman Hill. Oh man, what an April Fool's Day joke that would be. Turbines on Sherman Hill, and it's just this as a video. Dang it! I wish I hadn't said that out loud now. Yeah, similar to Vegemite. It's a yeast. It's a yeast extract thingy nonsense. That wouldn't be funny. Tastes like bad salt. If salt was terrible. Yeah, 24 hours of wind turbines. There's a train coming up the hill somewhere. £86,000 of TE going. There it comes. People will forget by April. Yeah, I'm not going to forget though. I've had someone for a bet on the charity stream a couple of times now. What, as in when would the bell be fixed, Ingen? Many times. With just reason. Have you ever done a scenario where you couldn't get up the gradient? Can't remember now. Possibly. Oh yeah, I know. I definitely have actually, because sometimes there's a really good scenario for Mardi Branch, the 20 wagon challenge and the 30 wagon challenge. They're great fun, and I failed numerous times until I got it right. Say hello, Danabashi. Multiple, Cameron, multiple. I believe that is now doing a Jamie. Oh yeah, that's the one where you start at Granite, isn't it? And roll, bring the train back to Granite, and then get out of its way, and then it rolls off away. Yes, I remember that one. Yeah, main Specibarn has had some problems with trains not being able to get up hills, particularly in bad weather, once the Dejan came in. very good, thank you, Robert. How are you? Is it harder uphill than down? No, downhill's the hard bit. Easy. Uphill's relatively easy. Downhill is where it's hard because if you're not watching, you can lose it. 88 on the rear. Almost there. $20 miles and about 8 hours till we get to summit, so we're all good. If you're going at top speed MSA, you've already lost control with a train like this. You want to be ideally keeping her around 30 miles an hour on a train like this because your dynamic brakes become less effective above 30 miles an hour. Chris Vasquez, another 5-hour stream tonight. No. 3 or 4. Let me say it's a latte. Chugging away. It's about holding its speed. No, they probably don't. I mean, similar but to a lesser extent, Monty. I can't have most of these machines. The sugar, the milk has got sugar in it, which is one of the reasons I went away from the Tassimo because their lattes are so sickly sweet to me. And I always get the unsweetened lattes from Dolce Gusto, and actually the Costas don't have sugar in the milk, so I'm using Costa ones at the moment. Because they're only £2.90 for 8 drinks at Tesco at the moment. But no, I have to have the unsweetened because the normal ones are just sickly sweet. It's like drinking sugar. Are we nearly there yet, Ultra Kid Bro? No. Distance-wise, we're not too far away. Time-wise, we'll have all had birthdays by the time we get there. Welcome to Heavy American Freight. Hope the loco has a bathroom. It does, but the door's locked. It's down here. This is the bathroom, but the door's locked, so you can't use it. Sorry. You'll have to go over the side rails. It's good that it's locked. You don't want to go in there, really. This train shouldn't be too difficult going down the other side, unless we... Depends which way we get routed in the end. Yeah, the path only shows up to... Actually, the fact that we're on this line means we're taking the shallow gradient, which is this one. This is the sharp gradient. Some of the westbound services will take the track 3, and they'll be a bit more tough. But this side of it, 0.8, we may not even need air brakes. Should be able to hold it on the dynamics. It's unfortunate if there is a bit on the nose train simulator driver, jeez. Sit around in the corner to Granite now, and then the next waypoint is Summit. So we're getting there slowly. MSA, seriously, I've got all of the hammers dropped. There's nothing left to put out to pour on. Gareth, you always have an engineer and a conductor on a train like this, yeah. Brake use priority, use the dynamics. Because dynamics are easy to apply and adjust, they're instant. If your dynamics aren't able to cope, then you back it up with a minimum set of air, and then you will let that adjust and you use the dynamics to adjust it. And if necessary, apply a little bit more air, and then again, dynamics should be the dynamics effectively what you're actually controlling, and you need to use the air brakes to put it in the right window that you want to be a point where with minimal dynamics you can speed up, and with maximum dynamics you can slow down. So they use the air brake to sort of adjust the profile so that you can do that. Night, MSA. Gareth, how long does the air take to apply? A few minutes. Which is why generally you want to get the air applied, before when you think you'll need it, and then you back off the as the air comes in, you feel the train starting to slow down. You back off the dynamics to keep the same speed, same amount of braking going on, until you find the new equilibrium. Right, so we'll level up here. We'll actually get a little bit of speed up at Granite, but not a lot because it won't last long. The other thing to remember is as you apply the automatics, it will apply the brakes on the locomotive as well. And if you're using dynamics, you'll need to bail off the locomotive's brakes. So you pull that into the bail-off section, and that will release the locomotive brakes only. Leave them on the wagons. I'm not sure at this point what's happening with the quarry tube function. I wouldn't expect anything else to be added to it at this point. There we go, back on a grade again. Yeah, you should be able to do a standing start. The train's able to do about 17 miles per hour in run 8. So if you did a standard hill start, no, we'll lose that 3 miles per hour fairly quickly. There is a sign going in at Summit, yes. Rockstone. There'll be more news on Horseshoe Curve nearer the time, Patrick. Well, different trains will run at different speeds, Gareth. So if you're running a shorter train, then you could easily hit the top speed. But with these big, heavy trains, yeah, it's a pipe dream. And a bad idea, fundamentally, because, like I said, above about 31, 32 miles per hour, your dynamic brake efficiency is on the decline. Which means you're depending on air brakes at an increasing amount the faster you go, to be able to slow the train down. Waterex, no, manifest. The people doing the MFTs do quite enjoy adding stuff to them, I think. Making them all work. We're past Granite, so looking for Summit now at some point. Probably in about 10 miles. Summit of the railway isn't the summit of Sherman Hill itself. No, because the summit was moved, wasn't it? The railroad used to go in a different direction, and this lowered the summit going in the diversion. In the brake pipe now at the rear, so it's as good as pumped up. Cameron Young, no, Union Pacific and BNSF don't do flashing ditch lights. I think there's a couple of BNSF locos that do, but it's because they were bought elsewhere. It's more a CSX Norfolk Southern Conrail type thing. The ones I like are the Mars lights. They're awesome. With the whole LED mount swinging around. Sorry, lamp mount. Would be simulating this train in such detail possible in TS? You mean the original train simulator? Not without some fairly big rewrites, because fundamentally the whole of the train simulation is done as kind of an average across all of the vehicles, I think. I don't think it's possible to script the brakes being applied on one vehicle, for example. Otherwise you could have done a really complex Lua script which managed the whole thing. But I think I don't know, maybe you could treat them all as locos, put loco brakes on them and see if that would work? I don't know. No idea. I wouldn't want to think about what the performance would be. I imagine it wouldn't be great. No, I think it really is just Eastern US that do the flashing ditch lights thing. West Coast Main Line over Shat does better air brake simulation, but it's still not a per vehicle simulation because that's something that TS1 can't do. There are no plans to build the track at the moment, Epic. We haven't ruled it out from happening in the future. The signals on the track are done, but at this point in time, it's not on any plans to build. Abula again, something the team want to do. Started looking into a while back, but not on any plans to finish. I say finish, do the other 90%. Finish makes it sound like it's mostly there. It's like it's just started. Different liveries of trains. I mean, the plan is to do a sharing system for people to share the liveries they make. So that way you can just download from there. No, Goosewoff. I don't think anything else has been mentioned on a season pass. Looks like it's levelling out a little bit there at least. Where are we? Still a ways from Summit, but that's a bend in the ground that might give us a brief reprieve. Hey, we were doing 21 earlier on Goosebuff. Everyone was a little bit disturbed that they might suffocate, but we survived. Yeah, the grade's dropped to 1%. Well, they all hit the route, all hit one route together. Well, we always do whatever we can for each route. We try and bring the best of the things relevant to each route each time we do something. So, that means we're done on the 1.5%. Actually, we'll be living on the 1.0, and it'll be dropping to 0.8%, if I remember rightly. So yeah, we will get a bit of speed up now. So yeah, every route from now on, a big American one, the American route should deliver the longer consists if relevant. One of the contributing delays to Horseshoe Curve was so that they had extra time to make sure Horseshoe Curve delivered 100-car trains, not sort of 40, 50 ones. Oh no, that looks like it's turning back up again. Let's see. Yeah, and I don't think anything else has been released on the Horseshoe Curve route. Can't remember. There you go. We're back up to 1.5% again. A strictly freight route for European trains. That's a tough one, Jacob, because when you look at the data that Sam was producing, Europeans lean very heavily towards wanting passenger. And so if you did a freight-only route, you'd only be selling to a small audience. Whereas do a freight and passenger route, everybody's interested. It's the previous stream, Cafe Boomer, but in reverse. And then I made my speech go forwards. The train around, etc. Yes, the SD70AC is coming up as a selectable loco on Sampads, yeah. Oh, there'll be more British routes to come, more European routes, more American routes. Of course there will be. rocking along at 20 miles an hour. Hold on, folks. Now, if I have a dream route, Goose Waffle, each route brings something new and interesting to the party, so to speak. Try and mix them all up into one, and you don't really get anything sensible, I don't think. Whereas, like, this route does what it does really well, but there isn't a route like this that's also got, you know, commuter trains on it. Cafe Boomer, I've got quite an old 6th gen Intel machine, and it's struggling a bit tonight. I'm doing the streaming on it as well. Normally my streaming is done on a separate PC, so it's kind of I'm kind of overworking it a bit, to be honest. It's quite old. Nightmare route, yeah, some kind of like an underground route with millions of stations. Any kind of lots of light baking, lots of stations, and lots of mileage. James Baby, what's your TSW operation crave at the moment? Don't know. Bakerloo wasn't too bad, Gareth, but Piccadilly line, for example, would be a blinking nightmare. UP run executive trains, like most of them, yeah, where they'll run a few of their passenger cars with an observation car on the back. Most of the railroads have exec trains. At the 50th anniversary of Amtrak, well, we don't have a Genesis in the game, which puts sort of a slight restriction on that. I know the obvious is, well, make one then, but making a Genesis also requires building, for example, superliners. Suddenly it starts getting quite expensive as a pack to make, and certainly not a quick pack. No plans to revise the Caltrain route at this point with the electrification? No, Josh, well, we considered Piccadilly alongside Bakerloo. We didn't start Piccadilly. See, Mariah's passed with a Great Northern Empire builder. See, now we're talking. Steam is coming, Arvid. No update on when or anything yet, but it is coming. We're working on it. What made you guys pick the Bakerloo to represent the London Underground? Most London Underground lines are using a much more complicated signalling system combined with automatic train control, which we weren't able to do at the time. It's a signalling system we could probably do now, but the train control kind of makes it pointless if all you're doing is watching it. So we looked for routes that had the older style signals, more conventional, and then we looked at the practical options for them, and it boiled down to Bakerloo line or Piccadilly line. And the Bakerloo line was the most achievable, and even that turned out to be the longest of the dev times for a route, so we've done in quite a while for that one. Even though it's only, 14 miles or something. It was still, yeah, probably one of the longest times I'd spent deving a route for ages. Yeah, I like the Bakerloo line a lot more than I thought I would, if I'm going to be totally honest. At some point we might go out and see Caltrain again and you know, look at a revised version of the route and modernise the whole thing, but it's not on a plan anywhere at the moment. We certainly wouldn't do it until it's all up and running and fully operational. Caden, we've already done a CN route. We did the Oakville subdivision. Not the greatest of our releases, but if you like Canadian National Trains, then that's what you got. Right, gradients dropped to 0.8%. So we're going to start speeding up a bit now. I'm going to try and hold it around 30 miles an hour just to make it easier for the summit. I think that's what the NS ES44ACs, I think that's what Skyhook are doing. Thanks, Ralphan. CTSL, Ralphan, much appreciated. Dialing back the power a bit just to keep the speed sensible. We're going to be hitting Summit very shortly. You see where the tracks have widened out. Oh no, we've got a little bit to get to Summit. Summit is here. But we're only at a 0.8% grade, so we don't know if it's quite so much power from the engines. You want a French route? I don't know where our licensing sits with regards to regional French routes at the moment. I doubt you'd see the whole of the Canadian Mountain Passes route, Derek, but you'd more like, because that was the Rogers Pass and the Kicking Horse Pass. But you're more likely to see Kicking Horse Pass is the one I would do first, personally. I think that'd be spectacular. Not too far from Summit now, at least. route build time getting quicker for the team now? Depends on the route, to be honest. Stations still take a long time to do because they're manually made. So if a route's got lots of stations, then that slows things down. If it's lots of open scenery like this, you can generally get a lot more miles covered in a day. One of the other CN routes that was always highlighted to me as being interesting is their iron ore one. I can't remember where it is now, but that seemed really interesting. There are no other trains on the Marseille route, Robert, other than the TGVs. It's a different route. Rubber tyre route. Yeah, Paris underground. Functioning mirrors may come in the future, but they're not a priority. Alaska's one I definitely would like to do, but you've got DTC, dispatch train control to figure out there. They don't use signals. It's all done dispatcher from block to block essentially. So we need to figure out how to make that work. Once, James Baby, the warship in TS1 was built using photogrammetry, and then the model was built out of that. But normally it's very rare just to get that level of access to every train we want to make. So actually the artists generally find whatever they can and build out of photographs essentially instead. I'd like to do a tram line at some time, like the Metrolink in Manchester or the Lewis in Dublin. No plans to. And it's a very niche interest area, but I think it'd be fun to have. Garn, that's the north-south line, isn't it? On the eastern side of Australia, because as the Indian Pacific runs the width of Australia, and if I remember rightly, the Garn is north-south, isn't it? You mean cross-border routes, Cafe Boomer? Yeah, that'd be fun. But, as we do build up the number of countries in the game, that becomes more achievable. We'll build it up at some point over time. But yeah, cross-border routes are interesting because you'd have to switch over. You get something like the line from Cologne to Aachen, and if you extend that all the way to Belgium, then I think you go through the Netherlands to get there, if I remember rightly. So I imagine that's quite interesting. Sleeper trains come up every now and again, James Baby, but generally speaking, people don't really like driving at night. At one point, a number of people were saying they wanted 57s and sleeper train on Great Western, but they only run at night, so. Right, I think why my machine is stuttering like this. Yeah, this is Summit. It is Maxim. There is a fix coming from the seat for the seat height. Right, we're now descending at 0.8%. So I'm just going to, now we do the transition of power. Where I'm going to basically be watching my speed, watching the amount of power, and just balancing things around. Once we run out of notches to take off, then we start applying dynamics. So we're at 23, so we're slowing down a bit now. What I'm looking for is when we start speeding up, is when the middle of the train, middle of the weight of the train is crossed over the hill. Let's cut the power completely. More and more and more of our tonnage is coming over the crest of the summit now. So if we watch the accelerometer on the HUD there, you can see it. At the moment, it's very, very slightly on the deceleration side. In fact, that looks like it's now on the acceleration side. So we might see our speed start to creep up now. Metro 424, where are you seeing that? Feel free to send me a DM with the detail of the issue so I can pass it back onto the signalling team so they can improve. Driver level 777, Robert. Wow! Well done. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Right, we're speeding up now. You can see the accelerometer's fairly clearly in the positive, and the speed is now going up. So I'm going to spin the dynamic brakes up. Bring it back into the middle again. Remember, the goal is to not really to exceed 30 miles an hour down the hill. How do dynamic brakes work? So my normal explanation for dynamic brakes is along the lines of, if you go back to, remember your school in science class, and you would have a bulb connected to a motor. If you spin the motor, it would generate power and the bulb would light up. So along similar lines, what's happening here is that the wheels are now driving the motors instead of the motor driving the wheels. The wheels are driving the motor. Well, that's generating current, and that current is being put into a big resistor bank, which is just being made hot. And then all the big noise you can hear behind me is the fans cooling that resistor bank down. Why you do that is that the process of generating that electricity through the motors slows the wheels down. essentially. There's more to it than that, but broadly speaking, in my simpleton terms, that's essentially it. Dial them back a little bit. We slowed down a bit there. We don't need to be slowing down. One of the challenges you find with finding the equilibrium and stabilizing your speed is that the couplings are all a little bit springy. So as you put the brakes on the dynamics, which are only on the loco at the front, and well, they're on the back as well. I think they're on the banker as well, but predominantly it's the four on the front. You're going to cause the train to sort of compress a bit in, and then it'll spring back out, and that'll sort of you'll feel the accelerometer doing this almost. And so it can be little. It's where you want to do little changes infrequently to just allow the train to settle down and see where it's at, and then adjust a bit more, see where it's at, settle it down, that sort of thing. The sister bank is sometimes called the toaster. Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, my Prius does that, Moricon, where I can. I've got an extra setting on the gear lever called B, so if I'm going down a hill, I can put it into B, take my foot off the throttle, and it will slow the car down, just regenerating power from the thing. It's a really good way of getting the relatively small capacity batteries on the Prius charged back up again. Was there a third line on the right there? Not for a while. This is Dale Junction. This is an Hermosa over here. We're going to be going via this point here, and then roaring down the hill still. 31. Let's get it back under control before I need to bring a bit of air brakes into force. Oh no, that's a path. They're tyre tracks on the right hand side here. I think there's another train behind me. Yeah, there is. And I'm holding him up. Perfect AI driver being slowed by frail, weak, ineffective human. Indeed. Why are you going 30 instead of 40? Because you don't want to be racing down the hill with these. Your dynamic brakes are optimally efficient at about 30 miles an hour, and beyond that they become less efficient, which means you then need to be relying on air brakes, which is a horrendous idea, even if you can avoid it, because of how long they take to apply and release. So I'm trying to hover around the 30 mile an hour mark because it's the most efficient to manage the speed. The AI's got a very simplistic physics model, Daniel, so they may well be running faster. coming out of Dale Junction there. Got Dale, there'll be Dale cut off behind, Dale cutting behind us. Coming into Dale Junction here, where there'll be 3 tracks become 2. Just going to manage the brakes a little bit because this is uphill for a little while now into Hermosa. But we will have a bump. We've still got probably 10,000 tonnes on the downhill run at the minute, so I don't want to lose the dynamic brakes entirely. Why had to be changed to allow 100-car trains? Really, because as I mentioned this earlier on, I think we've been able to support 100-car trains for a while, but until we could do it across the console platform, so we were basically waiting for next-gen consoles. We were better at doing multi-timetable support so that we could have multiple timetables, different ones for each platform, which was relatively recently. Diesel Legends introduced multiple timetables. There we go, we're slowing down now. Right, we're going to kill the dynamics at this point. So it's combinations of that, really. We did all the optimization to allow the longer trains a while back, quite a while back. Hey OD Gaming, welcome to the stream from Morocco. Oh yeah, I mean the early days of CSX Heavy Haul when we were developing it, the AI trains all ran semigraph as well, and it was hysterical, frankly. The early AI drivers for this game literally drove the train like the players would. You could sit and watch all the levers doing their things. It was incredible. But the performance, yeah, you could have 2 locos. You and an AI train and no whackers. How's it been received by the community, Daniel? So, I'm a bit confused, if I'm honest, because the Steam reviews seem really quite negative on it. It's like 65% at the moment. But the forums seem really quite positive. I don't know about the Discord. I don't watch the Discord. I disconnected from there ages ago. But, I mean, it launched with a few problems and things like the bell, which we fixed on Friday. So I'm a little bit confused about why the discrepancy, but on the whole, people seem to like it. I think to some extent, the management of a big heavy train is confusing people. They're trying to release the brakes, press the throttle, and why isn't it going anywhere? And that's just going to be a question of people just learning. One of the reasons I'm doing these streams is I wanted to, talk to people and see how they were getting on, answer questions, and demonstrate things. The switching and locals, Jonah. So you've got on the route, you've got Cheyenne to Wycon services. They've got Cheyenne to Granite services, I think. You've got Laramie to the cement factory services, and some switching that goes on as well. Put some more speed back on. We're losing speed now. Come on, find the power. Find the power. Night, Stoney. I know the PC audience had some problems with performance caused by their INI files being jacked up. Not everybody, and there are performance problems to resolve, just to be clear. I'm not saying it's all INI files, but I know that some INI file changes have been making life more difficult than it should be. Well, I will say, if you are enjoying it and you haven't put a review in yet, please do. There's a lot of people out there putting in negative reviews. I mean, if you've got something bad, constructive to say as well, then obviously do that. Yeah, don't be afraid to go and put a positive review in, please. Right, this is Hermosa Tunnel. I think there's a number of causes of the runaway train simulator driver. One of them is setting off with air brakes that will never apply ever again because they haven't been given time to get up and not charged enough. People, I think, there's a misunderstanding that 65 psi is the equivalent of 0 brakes. So you think you're applying the brakes, but actually you're getting a few wagons at the front and that's it. That's nowhere near enough. And also, yeah, losing the dynamics because the dynamics are being killed off is another one. Yeah, the tutorial definitely needs improvement. I'm going to feed that back to the gameplay team that there's some clear misses on the tutorial. It basically tells you how to drive an SD70, but not how to drive an American train. Or releasing the brakes and then applying again. Yeah, if you try and drive this like you would any like a UK train or a Euro train where you can just apply, release, boom, you're going to run out of brakes very quickly. Right, we've crested the top of Hermosa now. We're going to be downhill now all the way into Sherman, into Laramie. Well, the reason for the look up, look down, look left, look right route intros, Gareth, is because we don't know what is the first route any given player is going to play in the game. And so it's all very well saying, hey, sandpatch grade, let's put it on those 3 routes that come in the game. But if the route they want to play is this one, then they're going to abandon that and go and play this one. Which means they then wouldn't know the basics of the route. So we kind of have to do something, but it's not an ideal situation either way at the moment, totally agree. It's as tedious to play it as it is to author it, trust me. Right, we're over the crest now. We can see the speed is starting to edge up, so I'm going to get the brakes into a start up. Load up the dynamics to try and balance it out again. Sorry, Daniel, what were the 2 comments? Any reason you can't enter engine bays a lot of trains? Because it costs a lot. It's a lot of time to make those engine bays, and you really don't spend that much time in them. And so it's kind of like, well, we could spend more time modelling the rest of the train you do spend the time in, and or put extra wagons or whatever in there for the cost of adding an engine bay. Some of them are ridiculously complicated. Certainly UK ones are massively complicated to model. So the reason about the controls, Dallas Man, is that if you... the tutorial has been authored with, say, classic controls in mind, it will ask you to do certain things, which if you are not on classic controls won't make sense. If the tutorial's authored to be sensitive to which controls you've got, then it won't make anything. It'll just work according to what you've got. But the original gear stuff in the game was all built around what is now the classic controls. And it will say, you know, press this button to do these things. And if you're on the new immersive controls, there, as most players now are, then those instructions aren't going to make any sense. So that's why it's done that way. But one of the things Adam is doing is trying to go through tutorials. This is a much longer job. Go through tutorials, find out where they're specific, fix them to be more sensitive to it so that it offers the right thing, and then it will and then we can remove the restriction at all. So Daniel, your comment is about route knowledge? I'm not sure I follow it based on what I've just managed to find in the chat. Oops, now we're slowing down too much. When will all the DLCs come to the Microsoft Store for PC? I believe they're already there. Let me know what is... Back off the dynamic brakes and let it speed up a bit. Going a bit slow now. At least on service mode, Dallas, you'll never get switched. It's tutorials and scenarios that will switch you. There are no DLCs in the Microsoft Store. Really? Thought they were all there. Make inquiries. There's track 3 heading off to the left there. Glad you're enjoying it, Peyton. Are you on Peninsula Corridor? Nice. Jacob, I don't understand your question. Can you try again? Oh, right. So where it says, as indicated, it's still Laramie Yard 1. I answered this one earlier on, actually. Hey, Hentis. Turn your bell off, Hentis. What you need to do is go to external view, jump to the back of the train, jump back to the front of the train, the bell will be off. Make sure that you've turned the bell off before you do that jump. It's for some reason it's not resetting, it's not changing until you reload the engine essentially. So it says as indicated sometimes on here because we don't need to localize the phrase as indicated, because it's localized in the core, whereas Laramie track 1 or whatever needs to be localized. Now we will try and always make it to where it says blah blah blah, do that. Oops, hello, too fast. But if changes are made at the last minute, and the last minute isn't particularly last minute when it comes to localization, then we need to then we might need to switch it to an as indicated. Otherwise it will end up not being, end up having non-localized text, which we try and avoid. Loco brake will apply to all in the lash up cafe. At least this train's a bit lighter and I can handle it up to, it's still allowing the dynamic brakes to work at this speed. When they come to the Microsoft store, will you have to buy them again? If you bought something once, you should never have to buy it again, Braden. If you're finding anything wrong or not matching up with your expectations, ping a message to our support team. Outline the situation exactly, what you've got, what you can't buy, what it thinks you need to buy, blah blah blah, and they'll straighten it out for you. Hey Brayla, you're doing very well, thank you. We're under 30, so dial back the dynamics a little bit. Braden, are you using TSW 2020 or TSW 2? Because I don't think anything is in there for TSW 2020, but it should all be there for TSW 2. Alright, if you've got any doubts, then I would contact our support team. Just give them as much information as possible. Hey there, King Street, how's it going? 15 miles down the grade, don't need any air brakes, it's only a 0.8%, so the dynamics can quite easily hold it. Chilling. What about you? I'm playing Sherman Hill, having a good time. On the console, Jacob, you can press the Operation Shift key and then the same horn button and you'll get the other horn. What console are you on? If it's an Xbox, then you want the X button. If you're on a PS4, I think it's square or something. What would happen if you used air brakes and ignored the dynamics? You'd find it really hard to try and find a balanced speed because you can only ever fully release the air brakes in these triple valve systems. You can't partially release. So you'd apply a bit of air brake and then it would take 5-10 minutes before you finally balance the train out. Then you'd be like, oh, I need a bit more air brake. You press a bit more air brake. Meanwhile, you're probably going a bit fast now, so you want to slow down. So you press a bit more air brake. All right, slowing down. Okay, so now to stop slowing down because I've got the right sort of speed, I have to fully release all the brakes as immediately sounding like a bad idea. And then wait, the bad idea is getting worse. And then reapply the brakes, and now this time you now need more brakes because we're probably running too fast. It's very, very difficult to manage your speed just on air brakes because of how long they take to apply and release. Why do some of the intermodals from Cheyenne stop at Hermosa? All of the trains have some trains that stop at Hermosa and some that go straight through. We did that because some people just don't want to spend 3 hours driving a train, and some people would rather have a run from Hermosa to one end or the other, or drive just to Hermosa because it's a shorter run. You can just drive straight through. Once you've done the stop at, you can then go and carry on to the next one immediately. But it's done to break it up so that it's more in line. Most players are not interested in much more than 45 minutes in a gaming session, or in one route. So having everything be a 3-hour service felt like it wasn't ideal. So there was options there. Some of them are broken up, and some of them where they're not. So like this one, if you want to just run straight through, you can. Bro, you got your new PC up and running and your Series S. Nice. I need to get my Series X a copy of Sherman Hill running so I can enjoy it slightly better than this old machine. Never thought I'd be saying this on this old machine. It's struggling a bit. But upgrading it is not on the cards at the moment. Not with one child at university. All that's on the cards at the moment is being broke. Are there any light engine movements? Don't think so, Red Rev. Are you finding your new role at Dovetail? It's a challenge. It's a challenge. There's a lot to do. Unfortunately, I'm still kind of doing everything I was doing. It's it's a bit of a challenge, but no, it's the good sort of challenge. The C40-8 wasn't that long ago, was it? King Street? Push up the dynamic brakes a little bit more just to... Yeah, I need more CPU. I've got a 2080 Super Graphics, but the CPU is old 6th gen. So it's new motherboard, new CPU, probably new RAM. Fancy a Ryzen 9 5900 or something. Or was it a year ago for the C40? Wow. It's not so much the uni that's expensive, it's the fact that he's living in London, Dr. Bart. I mean, he gets a student loan that covers the university side of things, but... Yeah, 5900 is great. He also runs the editor, a dream. We've got a couple of people on the... couple of third-party developers or second-party developers who are using the 5950 and the 5900, and Will, our lead engineer, uses a 5950, and it's an absolute dream. When he says compiling shaders, I go away for an hour. They just sit and watch because it doesn't take very long. Makes me sick. back the dynamics a little bit. I've got a Ryzen 5 5600, I think, CPU, 4.6 gigahertz, 3070 GPU on the machine. It's on the machine at work, 32 gig of RAM. That's what I normally stream with when I'm in the office. But because of the wife having COVID, I'm isolating at home now. So, am I doing all right, Chris? Always a little bit intimidated having real drivers, engineers watching, judging me. AC6000 CW, yeah, I'd like to do an AC6000 at some point. Are there other enhancements for the immersion control scheme coming? Possibly. I haven't got anything pinned down yet exactly, but possibly. Nothing major at this point because it's fundamentally working. Yeah, this machine's got like 48 gigabytes of RAM in it now, for no particularly good reason. Doesn't ever use it, but the RAM was available, so I stuffed it in there. Like I said, all it's really suffering now is the old motherboard and CPU. I'd love to do the UP Heritage liveries. Just tell me, are they first gen or second gen Kingstree? Because we've only got the first gen modelled at the moment. Are you the ones, the second gen ones being the ones with the quieter cabs? Oh, they're first gen, so they're the same as this one then, are they? Interesting. Yeah, no plans at the moment. Because I really want the Katie, the Dr. Pepper train. It's my favourite livery on the ACEs. Dial back the dynamics, let the speed come up a little bit. Cool the resistors a little. You want the SP Heritage unit because it has orange in it. I imagine you're a big fan of Adam Lucas's trains he did for Academy then, which are all bright orange and TS1. 10 miles for Laramie. Cruising down on the dynamics. Not even needing to push the dynamics that hard, to be honest. Pounds of brought dynamics on there. Have I ever gone on one of the scouting trips? No, James. No. They you only want to send the bill, spend the money and send the people there that are going to have the most impact on it. There's only normally 2, maybe 3 people go on them. Normally it's a rail vehicle artist, an audio person, and sometimes an VA environment person goes, and they'll do a different trip because they'll be wanting to go up and down the route taking photographs, whereas the audio and the loco person are just going to be, riding the trains and in the depot and so forth. Tough to Games, how long is this route? So this, so this is, total mileage is 76 miles, but that is including the second track, that's track 3 down here. I think the end to end is 64, something like that. Right, Volkalterbit-Schmelt. You've changed your name. Yeah, this is the longest route in the game now. It's 62 miles, there you go. Yeah, the missing part of track 3 adds about another 40 so miles, so it's 116 in total with the missing bit of track 3, but that's not in the route at the moment. Slowing down, peel back the dynamics a bit, speed up again. Oh, we're under the 10 mile mark now, 8.6 to go. A bit of a pause. throttle back the brakes a bit, just let the speed come up. Yeah, at least the second gen Tier 3 compliant ones are fundamentally the same train though, whereas the Tier 4s are actually quite different. They've got different sounds to them and the like. There'll be a fix for the bell coming at some point this week, hopefully, Jake Scoots. Sometimes it'll actually work at where it starts and you can't turn it off. Mildly annoying. But yeah, it is coming in as a fix. Steam got the fix on Friday because it's the easiest one for us to update. But we're rolling that fix across all 7 platforms over this week. Monty, someone that I used to talk to an awful lot, who lives in Michigan, I think, was saying that when he goes for a lunch break, it's either a 20-minute lunch break or an hour and 20-minute lunch break, and the difference is only whether the train stops them crossing the railroad. I'm not sure if it really is that bad, but no, it doesn't work like that, Callum. What happened with trackage rights and stock ownership is not necessarily what happens with licensing of the licenses themselves. So Pennsylvania Railroad, I believe, went into Penn Central. Penn Central, along with New York, the New York, New Haven, and Hartford, and one other, is owned by what was a Penn Central subsidiary called, I can't remember the name of it now. Something really totally unrelated to railways. Basically, Penn Central started up a brokerage or something, and it's about the only bit that's left of it now. And they're the ones that own all of the old Pennsy licenses, or at least those 3 licenses anyway. Oh, American Premier Underwriters. That's who owns the license. American Premier Underwriters, APU. CSX, I have all of the predecessor licenses for CSX. But Conrail's licenses are still in various different places. Because Conrail, which was a government thing, it was only the trackage and stock that got transferred, not the actual licenses. Conrail still exists. It's just a Class 3 railroad in Detroit. The camera height fix at some point this week, official Kingstree. I don't know when exactly. How long is the trip? So a full end-to-end journey at sort of sensible speeds, you're looking at about 3 hours. But you can do just Laramie to Hermosa, or Hermosa Laramie, Hermosa Cheyenne, Cheyenne Hermosa. They're shorter. Laramie to Hermosa is the shortest one, probably about 3/4 of an hour to an hour. Yeah, Conrail shared asset operations, yeah. $62 miles end to end. Cool off the resistor bank. The scenarios are shorter. They focus on more specific things. We generally try and keep scenarios to around the 45-minute mark, or less. But at the end of the day, if a route takes 3 hours to go end to end, then there's not a lot you can do about that. Five and a half miles. But unlike something like Sandpatch Grade, where you're only really doing half a subdivision, you're going from Cumberland to Rockwood, which is about halfway. At least this is yard to yard, so you're doing something which feels a little bit more substantial. Because ideally the Cumberland route would run all the way over to Connellsville, but that's at least another 60 miles. And not a particularly interesting 60 miles compared to the bit that goes over to Rockwood. You bet it doesn't take Sam 3 hours to do the route end to end. No, probably not. It doesn't count if you can't stop at the light at the end, though, doesn't it? Four and a half, not too far from Laramie now. More detailed tutorial how to slow the long trains down correctly. Yeah, I mean, this route really hasn't delivered on that side of things very well. So that's something we need to I need to chat with the gameplay team and work out how we do better on that. No idea, Dr. Bart, not a clue. No idea who you could be talking about. Any shunting tonight, Callum? No, we're just doing a couple of end-to-end runs. I've done things like the switching and things like that on the shorter runs on the normal streams. But I thought that today I would do a couple of full line length runs. Jim here, and this is very much one. If you're not interested in long haul heavy freight, then this route won't appeal to you. That's exactly what this route is for. So it's going to be a Marmite, very much, I think. Oh, that's good, Calador. That's what I was hoping, and at least the videos will be around. What I am going to do is I'm going to write something up for Nat to post on the forums and so forth. Which will hopefully provide something more text that you can reference back to that can help people that don't want to sit and watch 6 hours of stream. Quite why they wouldn't want to sit and watch 6 hours of stream is beyond me. But there are people like that apparently have other things to do. Strangely. Oh, another train. Looks like containers. I'm not sure what the attendant called up this for, to be honest. No, Chris. We did one earlier on. Went eastbound earlier and westbound this way. I love the container trains. They're so colourful now. Cabape, I am driving at the dynamic brakes optimum speed, so 30 miles per hour or thereabouts is around the optimum speed for the dynamics, which means that I can achieve, great braking with the dynamics. You go above 30 miles an hour, your dynamic braking efficiency drops off, which means you then start needing to bringing air brakes to keep control of the train. And I mean, I get a bit faster on this one, but get more confident with it maybe. But for right now, I just felt like easy to keep around that optimum braking speed. Remember, the speed limit is the limit for the track, not necessarily the limit for the train. Push up the dynamic brake a bit now. We're going to be coming into Laramie any second now. Russian dope, end to end 62 miles, total mileage is 76, I think. I don't know what the rules are for it, Jason. Again, it's what I'm adhering to because it's making driving the train easier. Driving in freight trains is not about speed, it's not a race. And you'll find that brakes become less efficient at faster speeds. So just as you're needing brakes more, they're actually less available. Do I get sick of repeat questions? Not at all. Not at all. I think one of the places people come unstuck on this route is that they run to the speed limit, and at that point the dynamic brake is virtually worthless. On one of the runs where I lost control of the train myself, this is... Ooh, hello. Bug. When you... That's it, settle down, thank you. Yeah, where I was coming down, I was doing 70 miles an hour, and full dynamic braking was only giving me £20,000. It was virtually worthless. At 30 miles an hour, full dynamic braking give you closer to £70,000 brake force. I pulled the brake off in one big hit, so I went from run 8 brakes, dynamic brakes, to zero, and there is a slight issue with the audio on the dynamic brakes that it doesn't really like that. I was doing 120 by the time I went through Cheyenne, Callum. SD40's over there on the left. Yeah, there is an emergency brake, Liam. since that uses a separate reservoir, then you know, that should stop you. It might take a minute, but it'll stop you. You won't be going again for 10 to 15 minutes though. Well, you shouldn't. Do dynamic brakes still work if no more incline? Yeah, Calador, the dynamic brakes will work as long as you're travelling more than about 3 miles an hour. I think that's where they finally become ineffective. You don't sit it and leave it in setup. Let the dynamic brake cool off, and then you can take it out to avoid that noise. The noise is weird. Mr. Peter, whoops, Cabepe. Just rolling up to the 1 mile marker to stop the train, doing it nice and easy. What I'll do is same as I did last time, and apply the main brakes and bail off the loco, and then drag the train in with the throttle. Some nice pink wagons on there. Can't remember whether Xbox One they've still got the singles. They should do. There's no reason why not. I don't remember how I cut the formations down though, as to whether any singles made it in the final formation. Jason, so earlier on I did a run the other way round, and I needed a minimum set on the 1.5% to manage the speed, and at that point, with minimum set on the whole train, you really were needing to stick to maximum dynamic brake, the maximum efficiency at 30 miles an hour. Yeah, because at one point I wasn't watching, and I let the train go to 33 miles per hour, and full dynamic brakes couldn't bring it back, so I had to put another little bit of air in the system to get the train back to slowing down again. I mean, we never exceeded about 35, so it wasn't the end of the world, but it just showed how a little bit of lack of concentration can cause a problem if you're not watching. Key thing to do when you put your air brakes on is to make sure you bail off the loco, otherwise it kills the dynamics. No, I think you have to trigger the EOT emergency yourself, Callum. Of course, I'm a fan of the one containers. I'm delighted that they're in the game. I really am. I mean, it's one of those things that I sent a message to the licensing team and said, "Hey, can we get in touch with these people and see whether they'd be interested?" And they were super interested. think within about a week they'd sent their MD out to come and have a chat and see what the game was all about, and it's awesome. Ocean Gate, yeah, really. Needed 294 then. Although they've got tracks as well, but it's not all pink. At least the 294 is all pink. Yeah, it's only about 50 yards of, maybe 60 yards of window on this one. That's why I'm taking it really carefully. The exhibition installation, yeah, that was a custom thing. Adam modified one of the routes and to put the one wagons in. I think that might have been Ryan or Austin. No, I don't touch the content for pinks. I don't put pink in the game, Liam, because otherwise I would probably put too much pink in the game, and then everyone just get back in your box. No, the pink came in from other people. It just pleases me greatly when I see it. Have you seen the one ship? They got a container ship. It's tremendous. It's like this enormous magenta / pink ship. Pink's pink, Liam. I'm not pink fussy. Oh, look. Collectible. The one ship is also pink, yes. The entire thing is pink. There's no pink stripe. This is a very big, very pink ship. My ears probably could be made into a different colour. I don't even know if you can see the ears, particularly the way that they're lit up on the camera. It seems to wash them out. Job done. Right, and there we go, folks. That's it. We did one run in either direction today. Hopefully that has helped understand the route and the physics and everything a bit better. And if you've got any questions, ping them on the forum, and I'll try and answer them. Otherwise than that, enjoy. Take care and enjoy what's left of your weekend, folks. Bye bye.